Grammar plays an important role in any language, and the learner should be aware of it to be able to use this language efficiently. Grammar describes how a language goes or works. Also, learning grammar affects the student's communicative competence. But the problem is, how do we best teach grammar? Today, we are going to tackle about two efficient methods to teaching grammar: grammar translation method and audiolingual method. Grammar translation method, based in the book written by Richards and Smith, which they have defined the grammar translation method as a method of foreign or second language teaching which makes use of translation and grammar study as the main teaching and learning activities. So the grammar translation method was originally called the classical method because it was mainly used in teaching of Latin and Greek in the 16th century. While in the early 19th century, which saw the decline of Latin and its relegation to an academic language, the grammar translation method was adapted to help language learners to read, study, and translate foreign language and language literature. So there are two key assumptions of this methodology. First thing is, language learners must develop a good knowledge in learning and memorizing grammatical rules of the grammatical systems of their first language and second languages. Second, they need to be able to develop the ability to translate texts from their first language into the second language and vice versa. Ability to accurately translate text was associated with the ability to learn the grammatical system of the target language. So the grammar translation method viewed the study of a language as the memorization of rules to be able to manipulate its morphological and syntactical system. Grammar is taught deductively by the presentation of rules followed by translation practice, and accuracy in translating sentences and texts in the main focus. Text is the main focus of this methodology. So the grammar translation method consists of numbers of main principles which represent the building blocks of this language teaching methodology. So according to the grammar translation method, the learning and teaching of languages consists of the following principles. Teachers must exert their authority as their role is to transmit knowledge to learners, and the learner's native language is a medium for instruction. Second, learners need to be able to read the literature written in the target language and learn all the relevant vocabulary and grammar. Learners do not play any active role, and there is still learner-to-learner interaction. Third, literary language is superior to the spoken language. Learning a language consists of being able to read and translate text into and out of the target language. The main focus of teaching is to develop the learner's ability to read, write, and translate. Teachers would not direct learners' attention to the content of the text, which is treated as a translation exercise. Reading of very complex classical texts begins early. To be able to communicate using the target language is not an important goal for learners. Fourth, the focus is on accuracy, not fluency. The grammar is taught systematically or following a sequencing grammar syllabus through explicit, extensive, and elaborated teaching of grammatical rules. The main assumption is that a second language is learned through the deduction of grammatical properties of a target second language. When learners have developed a conscious and explicit representation of that language, they can apply this ability in the production of sentences through translation from one language to another. Fifth principle is errors are corrected. So if learners answer a question incorrectly, the teacher would select somebody else to give the correct answer, and or he or she replies directly, or the teacher would reply directly. Sixth, Learners should memorize vocabulary in the form of isolated word lists. Vocabulary in the target language is learned through translation from the native language. So, based on these principles outlined in earlier, a variety of techniques have been developed to help learners translate, practice, and memorize the new language. So the main techniques are: first, read and translate a literary passage. So learners are asked to translate a literary passage and then translate, mainly written translation, the target language into their native language. The passage provides the stimulus for learning vocabulary and grammar. So the main focus is reading and writing at the expense of listening and speaking. Learners' native language is used for explanations, translations, and comparisons between the native language and the target language. Second, reading comprehension questions. Learners answer questions in the target language based on the reading text and on the student's own experience related to the text. Third is deductive grammar practice. So grammatical rules are presented by teachers using paradigms and examples. So learners are asked to learn rules and apply them through translation exercises. Fourth, fill in the blanks exercises. Here, learners are given sentences or passages with words missing. They are asked to fill in the blanks with the correct vocabulary or grammatical item. Sixth, composition. Teachers give learners a topic and ask them to write a composition on that topic in the target language. So the topic is usually based on some aspects of the reading text given beforehand. Now we are going to tackle about audiolingual method. So audiolingual method was also known as the Army method, and it is the mode of language instruction based on a behavioral psychology which professes that certain habits can be formed through a system of repetition and reinforcement and structural linguistics. This views language as a system of structures. In this oral-based approach, the instructor would orally present the correct model of a sentence and the students would have to repeat it. The teacher would then continue by presenting new words for the students to sample in the same structure. There is no explicit grammar instruction because everything is simply memorized in form through repetition drills. So the objective of this methodology is to develop communicative competence in learners. It is thought that the most effective way to do this is for students to overlearn the language being studied through extensive repetition and variety of elaborate drills. The idea is to hammer the linguistic patterns of the language based on the principles of structural linguistics into the minds of the learners in a way that makes responses automatic and habitual. To this end, it is held that the language habits of the first language would constantly interfere, and the only way to overcome the problem is by facilitating the learning of a new set of habits in the target language. So there are key features and of this methodology, and these are the summary of them. First is new material is presented in dialogue form. Second, there is dependence on mimicry, memorization of set phrases, and overlearning. Third, structures are sequenced by means of contrastive analysis of first language and second language and taught one at a time. Fourth, structural patterns are taught using a series of repetitive drills. Fifth, there is still or no grammatical explanation. Grammar is taught by inductive analogy rather than deductive explanation. Sixth, vocabulary is strictly limited and learned in context. Seventh, there is much use of tapes, language labs, and visual aids. Eighth, great importance is attached to pronunciation. Ninth, very little use of the mother tongue by teachers is permitted. 10th, successful responses are immediately reinforced. 11th, there is great effort to get students to produce error-free utterances. So there are techniques or mainly activities that are recommended in this methodology. One is the dialogue memorization. Here, students memorize an opening dialogue using mimicry and applied role-play. 2. Backward build-up or expansion drill. So teacher here breaks a line into several parts. Student repeat each part starting at the end of the sentence and expanding backwards through the sentence, adding each part in sequence. Third, repetition drill. Students repeat teacher's model as quickly and accurately as possible. Fourth, chain drill. Students are asked and answer each other one by one in a circular chain around the classroom. Fifth, single slot substitution drill. Here, teacher states a line from the dialogue, then uses a word or a phrase as a cue that students, when repeating the line, must substitute into the sentence in the correct place. Sixth, multiple slot substitution drill. This is the same as the single slot drill, except that there are multiple cues to be substituted in the line. Seventh, transformation drill. In this drill, the teacher provides a sentence that must be turned into something else. For example, a question to be turned into a statement, an affirmative sentence to be turned into a negative statement, etc. So eighth, question and answer drill. Students here have to answer and ask questions quickly. Ninth, the use of minimal pairs. So using contrastive analysis, the teacher selects a pair of words that sound identical except for a single sound that typically poses difficulty for the learners. And students are to pronounce and differentiate the two words. For example, pet, pat, and any minimal pair. 10. Complete the dialogue. So selected words are erased from the line in the dialogue and students find and insert them back in. 11th, grammar games. So various grammar games designed to practice a grammar point in context using lots of repetition. Do you wonder if this methodology has strengths and limitations? Of course there is. So, audiolingual method represents a major step in language teaching methodology that is aimed squarely at communicative competence. A teacher that can use the method well will generally be able to create what appear to be very productive students. The extensive and elaborate drills designed to facilitate overlearning and develop good language habits were considered as an innovation, and many of them now feature as parts of communicative methods that followed the audiolingual method. However, the audiolingual method falls far short of the overall goal of creating sustainable long-term communicative competence in language learners. The linguistic principles upon which this methodology is based emphasizes surface forms of language and not the deep structure. The method does nothing to address the issues of errors and their analysis. So, according to one author, Wilga Rivers, in 1964, he pointed out that misconceptions of audiolingual method. He argued that language was not really acquired through a process of habit formation and overlearning, and that errors were not necessarily to be avoided at all costs. A factor that accounted for the method's popularity was the quick success it achieved in leading learners towards communicative competence. Through extensive mimicry, memorization, and overlearning of language patterns and forms, students and teachers were often able to see immediate results. So this was both its strength and its failure in the long run, as critics began to point out that the method did not deliver or do not deliver in terms of producing long-term communicative ability. To conclude, still there are reasons why audiolingual method is still popular and essential, and perhaps even appropriate in certain educational contexts. And I found a research that says audiolingual drills are frequently used to develop speaking skills of lower proficiency learners in private language coaching centers. So students who have almost never practiced speaking in English will find some of the activities useful in getting over fear and inhibition. So once learners have reached a certain level of speaking fluency, the teacher may use other methods in conjunction with it. So the method was one of the first to have its roots, which surely added to its credibility and acceptance over a long period of time. So it also, the ALM also had a major influence on the language teaching methods that were developed. And as a student who experienced this method, I would say that it quite improved. I mean, it is one of the methods that helped me or contributed to my communicative and English fluency and competence. So thank you very much for watching the entire video, and I know this is quite long, but thank you for your patience and thank you for viewing the entirety of it. Anyway, there is the unattached clips after after I speak, and I hope you will answer the question after those clips. Now, thank you very much once again for watching the entire video, and thank you for listening and learning with me. Good job.
Alright class, today I'm going to give you a dialogue and read it, and I want you to listen to me very carefully, okay, and note it please. Now we have two people walking along the sidewalk in the town, and they know each other, and if they need, they stop to talk, okay? Now listen to me. Hello Bill, hello Liz, how are you? Fine thanks, and you? Fine, where are you going? I am going to the post office, okay? Listen again. Hi Bill, hi Liz, how are you? Fine thanks, and you? Fine, where are you going? I am going to the post office. Now we will repeat it again, we will repeat together, but now I want you to even stumble at the line, I am going to the post office, okay? You are the students, okay? So, okay, now repeat after me. Hello Bill.
Hello Bill.
Hello Liz.
Hello Liz.
How are you?
How are you?
Fine thanks, and you?
Fine thanks, and you?
Where are you going? I'm fine. Where are you going?
I'm fine. Where are you going?
I am going to the post office.
I am going to the post office.
Okay, so stop here. Okay, repeat after me. Post office.
Post office.
To the post office.
To the post office.
Going to the post office.
Going to the post office.
I am going to the post office.
I am going to the post office.
Okay, one more time. Try it again. Hello, Bill.
Hello Bill.
Hello, Liz.
Hello Liz.
How are you?
How are you?
Fine, thanks. And you?
Fine thanks, and you?
Fine. Where are you going?
Fine. Where are you going?
I am going to the post office.
I am going to the post office.
Very good. Well done. Now I am Liz, and you are all Bill. Okay? Are you ready? Okay. So, hello, Bill.
Hello Liz.
How are you?
Fine thanks,
Fine, thanks. And you?
Fine thanks, and you?
Fine. Where are you going?
I am going to the post office.
Very good. Okay. Now I'm Bill, and you are Liz. Okay? 1, 2, 3. Start. Yeah.
Hello Bill.
Hello, Bill.
How are you?
How are you?
How are you?
I'm fine. And you?
Fine. Where are you going?
Where are you going? Good. I am going to the post office. Okay, now, half of the class is Bill, and the other rest of the class is Liz. Okay, we start with the Liz. Hello, Bill.
Hello Bill.
Hello, Liz.
How are you? How are you?
How are you?
How are you?
Fine. Thanks, and you?
Fine. Where are you going?
I'm going to the post office. Very good. Now, boys are Bill, and girls are Liz. Okay? Yes, again. 1, 2, 3. Girls start.
Hello Bill.
Hello, Liz.
How are you?
Fine, thanks. You?
And you?
Fine. Where are you going?
I'm going to the post office.
I am going to the post office. Very good. After the class class finished, I'm gonna put the lines on the board so you can have a time to write them down on your notebook. Okay? Now, I say, I am going to the post office. Repeat after me.
I am going to the post office.
Good. I am
Going to the bank.
going to the bank. Okay. So I am going to the pharmacy. Pharmacy. Good. I am
Going to the park.
I'm going to the park. Very good. Good job. And I am
Going
to Starbucks, or I'm going to the cafe. Good. So I am going to the park, and she is
going to the park.
okay. To the cafe. She
is going to the cafe.
He
is going to the post office.
Very good. Okay. I say he is going to the post office, and you may question why is he going to the post office. Okay? She is going to the bank, and you may question why is he going to the bank. Understand? Okay. So she is going to the bank. Very good. Okay. She is going to the pharmacy. Is she going to the pharmacy?
No.
She's going to the park.
Very good. Thank you very much. Okay, now the class is finished and you can note them down to your notebooks. Thank you very much. So now it's time to have a break. Okay.
So everybody please read the paragraph.
I woke up. All around me were multiple sounds of humans and animals crying together. I was actually in my cabin, until partly awake. Eventually, my mother opened the door and out of panic she shouted.
Next paragraph.
Suddenly, an outburst of flames emerged from behind them and I felt like I was being pushed down. One minute minutes of transportation hit the ocean.
So now, before moving to our next topic, let us first analyze what is the story all about. So let's talk first about first paragraph. So what have you understood about first paragraph? You can answer. Okay, Leah? First paragraph, what does it mean? So what have you understood about the first paragraph?
Upang mga tao, o matalong nila o tanang nakapatid siya sa iyang kalibutan ng mga langas na nailagbilang niya ka na samtang sina siya sa iyang kwarto. Kaya, ang iyang mama, o kaya niya ang kwarto sa iyang mama na murang napanig ang iyang pagtawag ba na kanang wala na daw ako na kanang ang para ang kanang taong kanang kalibutan.
Okay. Okay, next paragraph. Next paragraph. Irene.
Dibilas niya siya ang mama, niya, dito dapit sa kanang rihas sa kanang barko, niya, dibilin siya sa usakas sa mga sailor sa barko, niya, iyang mama, niluong sila, nilipisan siya dito sa kanang angka, niya, binibilin na siya dito sa barko, dahil iyang karitao nagbantang parang sa pamilya nila.
Okay. So, last paragraph. Mayla.
Kanang mura, kanang naay ni Buto, o niya, kanang napilya, kanang naay ni dito po siya, paupo siya, kanang nahog siya dito sa kanang sa ocean, nahog niya dito sa ocean, kaya kanang lipaw niya ang pananaw niya.
And translating the story into mother tongue, you were able to comprehend and understand what is the story all about, right? Yes, ma'am. Mas makasabota kung mother tongue mga tuwa. So this is English versus your mother tongue. Okay. So we can say that the scenario of the story, it was really tragic. The things that happened in the story tragic. So dili siya basta-basta lang scenario kay bakit ang good malulod ang barko. So kita sa niya mubasa, kaya gusto mo sa matamay, may design, sa tao, makuyawan. Right? But when we read the last paragraph, suddenly an outburst of flames emerged from behind them, and I felt like I was being pushed down while a new means of transportation hit the ocean. It all went pitch black. Then I woke up again. So the story was just a dream. Usa dahil siya ka damgo nga. So kuyaw kaayo nga damgo, di ba? So, do you think that the character really experienced those events for real? Okay.
Maybe yes.
Okay, maybe yes. We can really say that he was able to experience those things. So, next question. Do you believe the mother to be courageous?
Yes, because she is able to save her child.
Okay. So, you can really teach it out that the mother is not a coward one. The mother is really brave because she really thinks of saving her child and the rest of the family members. Last question. Have you ever been through a similar experience, Rolyn?
No.
No. How about you, Jezebel?
Yes, I have experienced the same situation 2 years ago in our house about to burn out.
Okay, so Jezebel's experience is not a dream. It really happened.